a lot of Chinese still talk about the Nordic model, the social democracy model that was being practiced for many decades. Some say it's already a complete failure, some say it's working. So as a scholar from this particular region, what's your assessment on this Nordic model, social democracy model? And you laughed.
Let me tell you, I came to Sweden in 72, so it's more than 50 years ago. I chose to go to Sweden because Lund University was at the time one of the two best departments of sociology, and that's my background. And the Sweden I came to was a visionary society which had a lot of social innovations. It had a strong mixed economy, capitalist and state, with almost 5-year plans and that type of stuff. It had a social democracy that, if you can express it this way, it had a story to tell because it worked to uplift the workers, those who were not so well off in society. And you had lots of reforms, you had economic democracy discussions, you had funding of money redistribution through the tax system. We had people's colleges outside the official system where people could go and educate themselves. We had strong labor unions where education was also very important, not only technical or skills, but also culture. You know, Danish labor union, for instance, has one of the largest art collections in Denmark. We had, from the late 50s and into the 60s and 70s, discussion about what we call the welfare state. That was a social innovation. We have since then had, discussions about the minimum wage, uplifting everyone, giving them a larger sum when they need it. When you're young and your family, you start a family, you need the money. You don't need the money when you're 80. And we had a lot of social innovation. And foreign policy-wise, Denmark and Norway were members of NATO, but we were footnote nations. That is, we had limitations to it. We would not have foreign troops, we would not have anything to do with nuclear weapons, we would not have prepositioning of materiel. And Sweden was totally neutral in the sense non-aligned. I mean, economically, culturally, it was West. It was always West, but it was politically deciding that we care for our own defense, and Sweden had its own defense industry and all that. And Finland was balancing with equidistance between the Warsaw Pact and NATO, a little bit like where we're sitting now, Yugoslavia under Tito. All that I've said now is gone. In 50 years, this has gone.
Roughly from when it began to disappear?
I would say, that's difficult, I'm grappling with it as coming from this and as a sociologist, what has gone so terribly wrong.
Same with the time of Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, neoliberalism, more or less. Huh?
That's one thing, and I would say the Social Democrats is, in terms of ideology, something that does not exist anymore. There is a wonderful Swedish author who said, the social democracy no longer has its story to tell. When you uplifted anybody, and everybody kind of ended up in the middle class or whatever, and the Social Democratic Party became more and more, the power of power, the party of power, if you will. They stopped being revolutionary and change. And in Sweden's case, I would say, I'm not sure it's causal, it's a reason. But I would link it very much to the murder of Olof.
I see, the Prime Minister.
There was this, the Prime Minister, whom I had the great honor to meet a couple of times. There was a vision, there was an internationalism, there was a no to nuclear weapons, there was a strong United Nations. At that time, Sweden, for instance, was a major deliverer of peacekeepers. We were proud to give peacekeeping to the United Nations, right? He was killed after having produced or been chairing the Commission on Common Security, which was a total break intellectually. It's not a very difficult concept because it basically says, we are secure when you feel secure with us. A common security means we are not threatening each other. We are different and we will be different, but we are taking the other into account, which is the only thing we don't do today.
Yeah.
So we have ended this whole development in a neoliberal economy, the demolishing of the welfare state, larger income differences, NATO membership, and now also for all the Nordic countries, 40 plus bases of the United States. 3 in Denmark, 4 or 5, depending on how you count a base in Norway, 17 US bases in Sweden. Had you told me that 5 or 10 years ago, I would have been laughing.
That's true.
And the people don't like it, but it's done over and about the heads of the citizens of Sweden. And Sweden pays for it. It's not the Americans who pay for it, we're paying for it. And then Finland also joining NATO, and 15? I think it's 15. But altogether, within 1 year, the Americans have gotten more than 40 military bases in what used to be a low-tension area, where historically we had what we call the Nordic balance. In security politics. The Nordic balance was exactly that each country had different security political solutions, but we always took each other into account. What Denmark would do would then say, oh, will it have good or bad effects on Sweden or Norway? And that, in my view, is an intelligent and civilized way of practicing. Yeah. You ask, how will others react if we do this and that? So we always had low tension in the Nordic area. Now we have high tension because of NATO's presence and the US presence.
And if we look at the causes for the disappearance of this model, let's focus on 1 or 2 major causes or reasons for that, what will be because obviously it started way ahead of before this Ukrainian crisis.
Oh yes,
That's just the financializing of the economy and the gap between rich and poor. So what will be 1 or 2 major reasons from your point of view?
Well, one would be that the Social Democratic Party, in a way, in all the Nordic countries have been a carrier of social development, and that stopped being that. If you ask me, it's only the name today. It's not social and it's not democratic, it's militarist and neoliberal. Secondly, I think the integration into the European Union has had a standardizing effect on foreign policy, economic policy. I used to jokingly say, probably to annoy some people, that security politics and economic politics is now run by calling a phone call to Brussels and a phone call to Washington. You could actually just as well put down, abolish the foreign ministry in Sweden or Denmark, because you take orders from over there, That's clearly that the media do that too. I think that is one thing. And the other thing is that with increasing decline of the US, and we know that it is declining, you can discuss why it's declining, but it is declining. There seems to be a scary feeling among allies and friends in Europe that we have to align to be close to, stand as one, because the world out there, the rest of the world, including your country, is a threat to us. And that means the diversity that we could afford earlier, also the more vibrant debate we could have, the people's colleges, as I said, which spurned a lot of debate, we can't afford that anymore because we're in trouble. So don't come up with some ideas, because there's one way to do it. Let me quote the present Prime Minister of Denmark, who is a social democratic Prime Minister and a woman. And she has a steady formulation saying there must not be as much as an A4 piece of paper between the US and Europe. It's not the breadth of the paper, it's the thinness of the paper that is important. And she's unable mentally to think any other thought than what comes out of. And also Denmark, much to my sadness, is the highest contributor of weapons, ammunition and money per capita to the war in Ukraine. Let me be perhaps emotional, I don't recognize my own country and my own political culture anymore. I sat all the 80s in the Danish government's Commission for Security and Disarmament. I knew all the politicians, I knew the ministers, I knew the prime minister at the time, etc. We published 6 books, among one, the Nordic area as a nuclear-free zone. This is unthinkable today. It's totally unthinkable. Nobody would dream of taking up the issue of the Nordic area as nuclear-free, because now we have these bases and we don't know, there's no security and no knowledge and no determination to say we will not have nuclear weapons. You know how this is handled? It's handled by the Nordic countries' leaders saying, the Americans know that we don't accept nuclear weapons on our territories, so we don't even have to ask them. And you know, the American answer about nuclear weapons presence is always, we neither confirm nor deny, you know. So the issue is disappeared, meaning that at any time in attention, I would not be surprised if the Americans take in nuclear weapons to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, and they will not ask what you take in. So you know, what I used to see, because I'm an old man, what I used to see is totally gone now, and we're in a high tension area, and that's the only thing we should never have done. There will be a wake-up call at some point for the Nordic countries.
Yes, I will share with our European friends there with some Chinese and Asian wisdom. Because
wonderful.
Europeans have obviously experienced what we call the lose-lose, as elaborated by the Munich Security Conference report. It's very thin, lose-lose. I will share with them the Chinese idea and ASEAN's idea of win-win over the past 4 and 5 decades.
Exactly. I think the world is for win-win.
Europe needs some kind of ideas, new forces from outside Europe, so that they will liberate their mind.
You mean political romanticism?
That's true. Exactly. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.